when we were young, we basically we weren't surrounded by any technological objects. Our definition of fun was going outside, playing with our friends, go bike riding, monkey bars, etc. And as we grow up, you know, we kind of leave aside the childish, you know, games, but at the same time we start interacting with people. And you know, and as time eventually goes by, we start losing that sense of connection. And we start engaging more in the objects that we start using, and like the technological objects. So, you know, and this is like from the social perspective, but it's not any more different than the educational perspective, which is what I'm going to be focused on for today. You know, when we were little, in kindergarten, we used to learn, when we used to go, we used to play, we used to paint, or we used to ask scientific questions like how is a butterfly born, or etc. And as we progress to elementary school, you know, we have to read to understand like what happened in history, so on and so forth through middle school and high school. And the thing is that it was tough for us to get through those times, but it was worth it. Why? Because we developed our intellectual skills, we learned how to speak, we learned how to write. But sadly, the new generations that are arising, they are relying a lot more on technological gadgets. And the most recent one that has been a hit has been tablets. And many schools are thinking about implementing the tablets in the educational system to help students learn, like to teach students through the use of the iPad. And in my personal opinion, I disagree with that. So my claim is that the use of tablets as working devices in a K through 12 educational setting will have negative effects on students. The first main reason why I decided to stick with this claim is because the frequent use of digital tools, especially tablets, can lead to health issues. You know, one of the most common health issues that have been observed are eyesight and, you know, muscular, like the loss of muscular strength. So the New York Daily News posted that the American Optometric Association has detected a high increase in the computer vision syndrome among kids that use tablets, and that involves eye strain, headaches, blurred vision, and dried eyes. You know, and this usually happens because when a kid has an iPad close to them, they have to zoom in and zoom out to see the pixelated pictures, and that damages their eyes. And I honestly find that very unfair. It's very ridiculous, because, you know, how is it that schools are planning on exposing kids to this kind of to these issues at such a young age? And as for the CBS Baltimore focuses more on, you know, on the loss of, you know, the writing skills. So for instance, parents think that they're educated and stimulating the kids, but doctors and therapists are raising a red flag. And an occupational therapist, Lindsay Marzarelli, which is a learning and therapy corner, quoted that if they're always on the iPad and not actually doing those paper pencil activities that they should still be doing, those muscles are going to remain weaker. And, you know, that's a big issue, because, you know, they're going to start losing that ability to, like muscular ability to write, but also that ability to retain information, because when you usually write, it helps you memorize things more frequently. As for the second main reason why I chose this, because tablets can be a major distraction for students while doing schoolwork. Now this applies more to students that are like in the middle school or high school level. Well, Decoded Science stated that a majority of teachers, 87%, agree with the assertions that today's digital technologies are creating an easily distracted generation with short attention spans. And the thing is that a lot of teachers fear that the use of technology will distract students more rather than helping them academically. They're scared that they might reach a point where they're going to lose control over the students, because whenever they're in school and they're supposedly working, in reality they're social networking, or they're surfing the internet doing other things rather than the assignment that they're supposed to do. And then Business Insider also stated that today's kids are used to obtaining any kind of information they want. There are so many things that are free out there. I think kids don't have the same sense of, gee, it's wrong to take something that somebody else wrote. And the internet encourages all of us to do that. Well, and it goes back to plagiarism. You know, many kids, instead of making the effort of going to the library, doing their own research, or actually use their human ingenuity and start creating ideas, brainstorming on their own, they're expecting everything to be done for them. And that's very detrimental for them. And last but not least, my last claim is that tablets are likely to diminish the roles of instructors in the classroom. And the thing is that Mindshift, the article of Mindshift, stated that even without, they went to the school and they were there already implementing iPads throughout the learning process, and they stated that even without iPads, Kaylin, he's an instructor, they interviewed Kaylin, they said, Kaylin is one of those charismatic teachers that brings so much enthusiasm and humor to his subject that it's hard to imagine any device would make him better at his job. And the thing is that, as a result of this, teachers fear that, you know, their job is going to be, little by little, they're going to be losing credibility in their job. That, for instance, they're going to have to split the task between a machine and their own abilities. And how will this affect the students? They will not learn the foundation of stuff or topics, only superficially. So, like, for instance, timetables. Instead of, they'll basically have this certain idea of 2 times 2 will equal 4. You know, there won't be that background of why is 2 times 2 4, you know, explaining and finding different ways so the kid can actually understand and the knowledge can infuse in their brains more. So, and you know, so I really do believe that, you know, with the eyesight issues as well as the lack of stimuli during the writing process, and, you know, and as well as the arising acts of plagiarism are encouraging a sedentary life, mentally speaking, you know, in the educational system, because they're relying on everything to be done with it. And is that what schools want to encourage? No. In my opinion, I disagree with it, but I leave it up to you guys too, because I personally do not agree with it. Thank you.
All right, Cassandra, it takes you 2 minutes to get to what the real topic is, and it's 2 minutes and 10 seconds into the speech before you really tell us what the proposition is. So that's a long time, a lot of background, and you need to cut to the chase, as they say. You need to kind of focus a little bit more. There's not really a preview of what the supporting structure is. Now, you do signpost the points during the speech. That part helps, and so it's not hard to follow, but it would be a good idea to give us that roadmap before the presentation gets going. I think that you do a little bit on creating a controversy here, because you tell us that there are schools that are adopting these kinds of tools for their students, and that there is some concern about whether or not this is really the best way of teaching. I think it would be helpful if you had some authority, for instance, maybe one of the sources that you use later on that summarizes what the general concern here is as you get into the speech, and then you can get on the particulars. On the particulars, to me, the one argument that you had the strongest evidence on were the health issues. You talked about people having eye strain. There was a little bit of this muscle atrophy because people are not going to be learning to write in the same way. They're still going to be writing, but they're doing it on a tablet, and so that's going to diminish them in some way, shape, or form. I'm not exactly sure that I have to worry about that, because if I always have access to a tablet, who cares if my hand goes this way or this way or this way while I'm writing? I don't need to do that if I've got the tablet. So I'm not quite clear why that is a big drawback, but you do have some information that supports that. On the issue of it being a distraction, you've basically got a piece of popular opinion here, or public opinion here, that is trying to reflect the belief of teachers that it has some consequence. And I think that it introduces the concept, but none of it is measurable. I'm not sure that we can say, for instance, that kids have become less effective, that they are more distracted in classrooms, except on a hypothetical level. It shouldn't be that hard to find some information on that point. So that felt a little bit underdeveloped. And then the last point is very nicely labeled, but the proof on it, I'm not sure, is all that convincing. You've got one example of a teacher who's not likely to benefit from having access to these sorts of things, but that doesn't mean that there aren't plenty of teachers that could use and benefit from that. They're not charismatic, they aren't engaging, they aren't doing those kinds of things. And the notion that the tablets or access to online teaching tools is in some way going to diminish kids largely seems to be presupposed. You've got this hypothetical example about kids not learning how to do their times tables or not understanding where it comes from. I got to be honest with you, I think that most kids, when they learn their times tables, probably never understood except that they need to know what the damn times table is. The value of it becomes clearer to them later on, but when you're in the third grade and you're supposed to be learning this, the idea that one of the criticisms that's going on right now is that they're teaching kids very interesting ways of learning the times table as opposed to the traditional just memorization sort of thing. And I'm still not sure how the tablet or access to a tablet is going to diminish that in some way. It just seems like it's an assumption on your part. There needs to be a little bit more explanation. I do like the phrase that you introduced, that we have a sedentary intellectual life, that we're in essence becoming much like we are when it comes to our physical personas, passive observers of life. Instead of actively engaged in game playing or physical activity, we're watching it more and we're playing computer games and doing that sort of thing. The idea that we're doing the same sort of thing with our intellectual ability, I like that phrase and that concept. It just needs a lot more development here. All right, thank you.